Hi, it's Mark Orwoll. I'm at it again. So just watch this for a second and come on back.
Let the swing begin. Marco Wall is at it again, and that cat is swinging. Yeah, that cat is swinging. The party don't stop when Mark's in the space.
I grew up halfway between Hollywood and Disneyland, in a small pocket of reality bounded by two fantasy worlds. As a teenager, I often drove with friends to Sunset Boulevard, the rocky shores of Malibu, and the moneyed streets of Beverly Hills, just to tool around. And in all that time, despite the proximity of hundreds of movie stars and famous musicians, I managed to see only one celebrity, Al Lewis, known to his legion of fans as Grandpa on the Munsters. Recently, full disclosure, 1989, I returned to Southern California for a few days. Though I was there on other matters, I was able to sneak in an hour or two of celebrity searching. I'm happy to say that I've now added to my list beyond Grandpa Munster, not by much in terms of numbers, but light years in star quality. Ironically, I've seen more stars in public since moving to New York City. My wife once crashed her shopping cart into Tony Randall at a Manhattan supermarket on the Upper West Side. And we had a nodding acquaintance with presidential candidate Geraldine Ferraro and her husband, fellow shoppers at our local grocery store in Queens when we lived there. What is it with celebrity food shopping? Even the rich and famous gotta eat, I guess. Elsewhere in town, we've chanced upon Dustin Hoffman pushing a baby carriage, former New York Governor Hugh Carey eating an ice cream cone in Greenwich Village, Ben Gazzara, Robert Redford, Tom Brokaw, Peter O'Toole, even Kurt Vonnegut and his wife Jill Kremens, early on a Sunday morning walking their little poodle on the Upper East Side. For some reason, Vonnegut gave me the stink eye as we passed. I didn't even do anything. But try that in Los Angeles, in those special enclaves of the stars. You'll probably be out of luck. So I didn't hold out too much hope on this recent, repeat, 1989 trip. In Palm Springs, I did happen to see Bob Hope's Hilltop House, 23,600 square feet of pure space-age goodness. A distinctive warehouse-like structure designed in early Safeway moderne. I guess that he too, like most stars, has a grocery fetish. I also got a glimpse of Dinah Shore Drive, Frank Sinatra Drive, and Gene Autry Trail. Slim pickings, I'll admit. Maybe that's why I was so determined to catch a star a few days later in Malibu. Although I had often driven through that seaside community north of Los Angeles, I had never explored it much beyond the main public beach and pier. This time, I found myself at the edge of the exclusive Malibu colony, that compact and private residential zone whose homes are peopled by celebrities of the first order. At first, I waited near the gatehouse, an unassuming structure manned by two guards. Not wishing to look like the loiterer that I was, I walked back and forth on the opposite side of the street, between a gas station and a new shopping plaza, continually checking for tan starlets leaving the colony in convertible Maseratis. I was afraid that the guards would soon become suspicious, so I trotted across PCH to the southern border of the colony, where a hurricane fence led from the coast highway to the sea. A sign warned trespassers that the beach and streets on the other side were private. So I took off my shoes and walked along the edge of the surf, figuring that if I were arrested, I could claim innocence on the grounds of high tide or some other loophole. Inland from the waterline, I saw houses that looked like movie star homes, And I did see through the beachside picture window of one where a person of undetermined celebrity seemed to be carrying bags of groceries through the front door. That evening, I dined at a place called the Malibu Adobe, co-owned by Ali MacGraw. Again, what is it with celebrities and food? Even Grandpa Munster later started an Italian restaurant in Manhattan. But the actress who made a name for herself in Love Story was not to be seen, so I was not destined to play Oliver to her Jennifer between courses. I returned to my hotel in Beverly Hills, situated at the foot of the Rodeo Drive shopping strip. Years ago, I heard a story from a friend about an incident on Rodeo Drive. He swore up and down that it was true. He'd been walking down Rodeo when a limousine pulled up to the curb and Cher, of all people, opened the door and stepped outside. At the top of her lungs, she yelled, "I'll give $25 to anybody who'll bring me a Pepsi." In my own strollings along Rodeo, not only did I not see Cher, I couldn't have found a place to buy a Pepsi if my life depended on it. A $3,000 pair of leather pants? In a heartbeat. A Pepsi? Forget about it. Scheduled to leave Los Angeles for Part South the next morning, I had virtually abandoned hope of spotting a celebrity. That evening, I went to dinner with a couple of colleagues at the reinvented Ma Maison restaurant in the then-new Ma Maison Sofitel Hotel on Beverly Boulevard. The restaurant was airy and pleasant, and the other patrons comprised the stereotypical Hollywood crowd. There were agent types with gold chains and open-neck shirts escorting comely ingenues. Handsome young men who might have been second-string players in daytime soap operas. Do they even have those anymore? And three-piece suited businessmen who looked like studio attorneys, but not a recognizable face among them. Our appetizers arrived and the meal went on without intrigue. The owner, Patrick Tarai, a highly visible presence in his checked coat and outdated clogs, chewed gum in a detached manner and mingled with the diners. It was a typical Tuesday night at a high-priced Beverly Hills eatery. And then I noticed my companions gaping over my shoulder toward the entrance. Eyes wide, one of them said, "You won't believe who just walked in the front door." Not wanting to appear gauche by staring, I strained my eyes hard to the right without moving my head. Lo and behold, it was Lionel Richie, the singer. I'm sure Mr. Richie has his share of fans, but I wasn't particularly fazed. "That's nice," I said. "Not him," said my other table mate. "Look!" Trailing Richie was a superstar whom I never expected to see in the flesh, if you can call it that, Michael Jackson. The diminutive pop star, wearing a simple black leather jacket, sans stud and rhinestone glove, looked exactly like he did on television, almost lifelike. His silicone-filled face could have been lifted from a showroom mannequin. His wet-looking curls were perfectly set, and he wore a slightly dazed expression, perhaps in amazement that hordes of diners weren't deserting their chicken paillard to clutch at the hem of his trousers. Jackson and Richie took the table next to ours, directly in my line of sight. What does Michael Jackson eat? Does he use the correct fork? Is he a napkin in the lap man, or does he stuff it into his collar? I wasn't the only one in the restaurant who was curious, but it was a chic crowd, and no one wanted to be seen drooling over a singer. I began to notice the various techniques used by others to watch Jackson eat. One man, with his back to the star, coughed vigorously to camouflage a discreet turn of his head toward Jackson. An older woman surreptitiously sneaked a glance well, seeming to scan a soup spoon for cleanliness. Others simply moved their eyes rapidly toward and away from the singer, until half the crowd appeared to be at a tennis match or suffering from some untreatable optical condition. Although the restaurant remained quiet after Jackson entered, it grew positively silent when a little girl about 5 or 6 years old walked across the room to the singer's table. There was no question where she was heading, especially considering the pen and paper in her hand. Now everybody looked. The blasé agents, the would-be stars, the waiters, everybody. Finally, the little girl reached the object of her attention, standing quietly next to the star until he became aware of her. He whispered a word or two to her, took the paper, and signed his name. Everyone in Ma Maison, as if on cue from an unseen director, responded audibly at the same time. Oh. And as the soft murmur of approval filled the restaurant, Michael Jackson smiled. Hey, I'm Mark Orwoll. I'm at it again next week. Come on back and watch the show here, or watch it on YouTube, or wherever else you can find it. See you then. Bye.
Let the swing begin. Mark Orwoll is at it again, and that cat is swinging. Yeah, that cat is swinging. The party don't stop when Mark's in the spin.